Thanks and welcome to all the participants. I think there are three key benefits of accreditation. Number one is that accreditation essentially is about mission alignment, which means that each institution is different, catering to different groups and having its own mission. And accreditation ensures that the school is aligned to the mission to which it has committed. That is number one. Second, accreditation is also an indicator of the fact that the learning goals, which is what has been promised to the community, is met, which means that the learning goals that the institution or the school has specified at the end of the program, the graduates will be meeting, is actually made through a rigorous quality process. Third important aspect is when we are talking about delivery and what we call the assurance of learning is happening. The quality of the faculty, the quality of the curriculum, and the quality of the processes are in alignment to ensure that those goals are met. These are the three key benefits. I would say one is the mission alignment, number two, meeting of the learning goals, and three, the processes and the quality of the faculty and the curriculum is such that what has been promised is actually delivered. See, what happens is, and when my introduction was happening, the mention was that I've held leadership positions in SPJMR Mumbai or IMT Ghaziabad or MICA, which are much, I would say, higher ranked schools, so to say, from an aspirant's perspective and the way the community looks at it. Now, moment a school becomes accredited, it also ensures that it has committed to certain quality parameters and it will remain sustainable, and there is a strategy in place. Each accreditation requires a strategic plan and and resources being committed to meet that strategic plan. Now that allows, whether it is a faculty, whether it is a director, whether it is an aspirant, to understand, okay, this school is committed and also has the resources and will remain sustainable. So first of all, it attracts good leadership, good faculty, and good people and good students to associate with the schools. Number two, what happens is that you can then, as a school, you can collaborate with a lot of international schools where there's a credit transfer happens. So for example, we have programs, the students can do part of the program in JAGSOM, part of the program in State University of New York, or a Rene School, or a school, ESCP, or University of Wollongong, Sydney Business School. Now, these kind of possibilities emerge only when you are accredited. And the third advantage that happens is that you are eligible for international ranking. So when we look at our three programs, PGDM in marketing, PGDM in finance, and PGDM in analytics, each of the three programs are ranked by the QS in the global world university rankings. That creates an international standing. And today, if you have, we are talking about global thought leaders in management or business, like Professor Jagdish of Emory University, Professor Parasuraman of University of Miami, or Professor Vitala Rao of Cornell University. If they are associated with us in the institution, it is because of accreditation.
In fact, TAPMI was the first B school in the country to apply for an accreditation, although it was the second international accreditation, although it was the second one to actually finally get ASASP in 2012. So after that, what has changed in TAPMI, although I was not that at that time, one of the reasons why I joined TAPMI, leaving my existing job, was to actually, because TAPMI was internationally accredited, because it brought in processes. Firstly, before accreditation, our institute had a nearly half a page mission statement. That was reduced to a single phrase to excel in postgraduate management education research and practice. So there, what happened was that mission statement now has to be achieved. It's not something that we simply say. So that is ensured through a set of processes. So entire academic delivery, including the curriculum development, is now process driven. So that is what an institute benefits from. That is one of the major things that a faculty in an institute benefits. There are many other things like Atish was mentioning, many other benefits that are there. But however, from student point of view, what is actually important? What do students look for in an institute? Students overtly never speak about accreditation. It doesn't seem to be important to them. But however, they are definitely interested in a good career opportunity, good industry connect from the institute. They would be very interested to know whether the institute has good faculties, it has good resources, what are the program offerings, are they strong program offerings, is the course curriculum good, what about the brand of the institute? Is it a good brand? Is it something 10 years later I'm proud to be associated with? Like I'm an alumni of TAPMI or JAGSOM or whichever institute it is. So all these are probably the things that a student looks at. So he gathers information from, he or she gathers information from three different sources. One is the informal resources like you have Careers360 and many other ranking agencies, coaching institutions. They give a lot of inputs. Then there is, of course, so those who want to obtain first-hand or second-hand information, they will get through word of mouth, they will visit institutes and all. So there is a triangulation process. One of the more credible sources of information on all these aspects comes from accreditation, because it's like buying gold, but much more important. It's not just the money that you are spending precious time of your life. So the students get to actually, somebody is accrediting, a third party, a reputed organization is accrediting it, saying basically this curriculum is good, it meets the requirements, it meets the stakeholder needs, the faculties are qualified and are sufficient in number, the institute has resources. So it gives guarantees to the students. So that is why I think students should obtain this information also. What is the accreditation that an institute has? And that is how I feel student benefits. Now, within once a student joins an institute, accreditation is something that they don't get directly involved. But however, even during that process, like for example, last 2 years, we have had re-accreditations of AACSB. In fact, we have in the next, incidentally, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we have our re-accreditation by AACSB. And we have very recently gone through AMBA re-accreditation process. NBA has also visited us, PRT has visited us very recently this year, 2021. So during all this time, again, the students are met by the PRT team. The learning outcomes, the progression of the students, everything. In fact, the class visits take place. And so the accreditation team meets the students, ensures that what is promised to the students is actually being delivered. And so that in my view is the benefit that students get when they join an accredited unit.
Basically, when we started the ACSB process, and we took a while to get it. Yes, we started it actually much earlier than most other schools, many years ago. But we've had our breaks for other reasons, and then we were a late entry, as you said. Yes. The basic thing is that ACSB sets very high standards to business schools. And these high standards, they actually ensure students and graduates of the MBA and other programs that they have the career progression that is actually necessary for them to lead successful business careers. All right. And that is, I think, a very, very important fact, because it's about continuous improvement. I think my other panelists have already spoken about that. So it's a focus on continuous quality improvement to ensure students that they get the required outcomes that they've been promised, number one, but also that at the same time they have a very good career progression, which enables them to, have successful careers. So for us, we have been continuously looking at all our processes, which there has been a vast improvement. There have been improvement in terms of recruiters. We have had very, the best faculty. A lot of, I think ASASB accredited schools generally attract good faculty, both from internally as well as from overseas. So our faculty have really, our faculty numbers, both in quality and quantity, have actually risen a lot. We have been able to also focus on our research publications. So faculty have excellent research, and this research ultimately feeds back into, the teaching and benefits students through that. At the same time, the industry interface too has improved. So we have a lot of improvements that have taken place because of this continuous focus on quality improvement or quality assurance of the accreditation process. I mean, at the end of the day, when we have, we are part of a global network, and we are part of 17 schools which have this ASASB accreditation today. So obviously it means that, these schools have something in them which have got the accreditation agencies to look into. They're meeting certain quality standards, and those quality standards ultimately always benefit students, and students in terms of, their careers, in terms of their salaries, in terms of their remuneration, in terms of the kind of recruiters who come, in terms of their access to both, national as well as global networks and agencies.
Our mission has one component saying that we groom continuously employable professionals, which means that our learning goal has to make sure that our students remain employable, and employability is one of the outcome, of our program. And double ASASB has got, for example, 3 blocks. First block is strategic management, second block is learner success, and third block is impact in the new standards, and there are 9 standards. Now that means learner success, the way we have defined it, is as employability. And when the accreditation happens, you have a group which are your peers, and they are top deans. We had one from Australia, one from Europe, and one from US. Actually, doing a 360-degree appraisal or a review of members of the board, the alumni, just look at alumni success. Talking to faculty is one part, of course, as to how they are grooming students, staff, and the recruiters. Now, the fact that the processes are aligned to make sure that the students are employable, the recruiters find it much more reassuring to come to an institution which is saying or stating that this is what they would like to deliver. And that is where I think we also attracted good recruiters. The process, the accreditation process itself helped us to create a curriculum, which in my introduction was said, which creates employability. For example, we have got a unique career track program, which is essentially to groom our graduates for competencies which are aligned to certain roles, which means our career tracks, I think we have 7 career tracks: MarTech, sales and service, fintech, banking, or capital markets, HR tech, and also business analytics. So for each of these, we have got specific roles. Now, for example, if it is MarTech, we are talking about maybe a campaign manager, digital campaign manager, and there are certain specific competencies which is required for that. And today's assurance of learning, both my other panelists knows that it is based on competencies. There are so many companies which are now today coming, which are coming today, all the new age companies, if you look at it, today we have got a Big Basket, or a Namli, international recruiters like Namli or a Big Basket coming in, okay, giving us projects, giving us recruitment, and engaging on a continuous basis, which has happened post double ACs.
Oh, that's
and
what I
a
was looking at.
significant jump in the, the what I call the starting packages at the time of graduation, the packages that the students are getting, roles that they're getting, and the companies that are coming have got gone through a significant improvement post double ACs. No doubt about it. But particularly the international recruiters.
Yeah, see, can't say about whether in the last few years recruiters have increased directly because of ASSB, because we've had ASSB accreditation since 2012. But however, I also don't believe that recruiters will look at your international accreditation and then say, okay, let me go here and pick up, or let me pay a higher salary. I really don't think it works that way. Recruiters usually go by their past experience. Today we have over 300 recruiters, corporate, with whom we engage, who visit us. Our placement is almost 100% over. By December, it was over. The reason was that the recruiters look at past experiences. Our alumni, our people who have been hired earlier, how did they perform? So this is what goes on, and then the word of mouth gets in, and then we are also able to continuously go and meet our corporate engagement team also has to continuously go and meet. So we have to assure the recruiters that our students are job ready. So that is the bottom line. They'll not be impressed with our accreditations just because we have an accreditation, but students may or may not be job ready. We are not able to assure that. So, but however, there is a long-term implication. It is that our because we are mission driven, and then mission of a B school is eventually whatever it is actually stated, eventually we have to cater to the industry needs and the society needs. So end of the day, our processes have to make sure that the quality continuous improvement is actually happening in the institute. And that will automatically increase over the years, we have seen that the quality of intake has increased, the student intake has increased. That is because of our accreditations. And then hopefully, as Dr. Sita said, the faculty quality has improved, and therefore the output quality of the students has also increased. And this, over a period of time, this becomes visible in the market. And that is what finally drives. So it's not going to happen overnight. Today I'll get an accreditation, and then tomorrow suddenly I'm going to have 100 new recruiters, and the average salary will rise by 1 lakh. No, that's not going to happen. It's going to be a slow and steady process. But institutions live for decades, so I think finally that's what matters: slow, continuous improvement.
When you say that one of the learning goals is to make your students employable ready, no, one of our learning goals is not to make students ready or whatever. That is our learning goals are more in terms of the academic processes. So we will talk in terms of, okay, students can, because we are talking about competencies, so we will talk more in terms of the academic competencies here. But yes, the larger aim of any B school, as others have said, is definitely to make your students, not just employee ready today, but, having a sustainable career throughout. I think that is definitely the larger goal of every B school, okay, despite whatever else we may say. But what I can say with regards to IBS Hyderabad is we have a large database of, recruiters who come. I think there are several thousand. So I will not say that database has increased, but I will say definitely that the number of there are new entrants into the process. And right now, while I'm talking to you, I just had a WhatsApp message that, there are 10 HR students who were placed in EY. EY has come for the first time for HR. So definitely there is a kind of, the newer profiles, the better profiles, we are more industry friendly, industry ready. All these has come in because of, as you said, a focus on continuous improvement for all academic processes. And that continuous improvement is, we are held accountable. I don't say we're held accountable, but we are focused on that. I mean, we have to continuously focus on looking at an improvement in every process, and maybe at the end of 5 years being able to report that improvement. If we haven't reported, then we go back to check what is the problem, where did we go wrong, how can we relook at that, how can we redesign it, and things like that. So yes, the focus is always on quality assurance. And that, as somebody has said, does benefit students in the long term.
It's very, very important. And that is what actually really comes down to when you're talking about accreditation process. See, we evaluate students. When we evaluate students, we are basically testing the student, whether the student is good, whether the student has put in effort, has he or she understood everything. So that is purely, we are evaluating a student only. Whereas when we actually look at assurance of learning, we as an institute, we have to make sure that we have promised something. We have promised that you will learn something, and then we have promised other stakeholders also that our students will learn something. And have we accomplished that? That is what finally is going to be. So, for example, if you take AACSB, we have very, very clear cut. And even in the case of AMBA, which is the other international accreditation that we hold, where there are learning outcomes that are very clearly mentioned. So here we have to, an institute is supposed to make a formal commitment that at the end of 2 years, a student is going to have this kind of learning. So we divide in the first place, we have to have a clear understanding about, the institute has to show a clear demonstration of what a student should graduate with. It is like a graduate outcome in some other context that is used. So every student is supposed to possess some skills. So we have, like, for example, 6 program learning goals defined for each of our programs, and we have these goals. So we have specified very clearly, okay, leadership is, an institute may say, leadership is one of the attributes that we would like our students to have. Now, ACSB is going to ask us, how are you going to ensure that the students gain that competence of leadership? How are you going to ensure that? Tell us the process. Okay. How are you going to impart that particular learning? How are you going to impart that particular skill? How are you going to make a student a better leader? Where are you going to assess that particular skill or knowledge that you have imparted? How are you going to assess it? And what is your standard? What is your scale of measurement? All these we are accountable. We have to commit to certain standards for each of the attributes that we would like to see in our students, and we have to clearly specify a measurement scale, the standards, and then at the end of every term, we have to ensure that whatever we promised, whether it is, we may not meet it. Sometimes it may happen that we said that we will have critical thinking. An institute may say that we will impart critical thinking, and how such and such course we have, and then in that I am going to measure in an end-term exam or a special project or something of that type. So when I do that, I may not be able to achieve that. So we have 3 clearly specified categories, whether a particular student has met the standard or has not met the standard or has exceeded the standard, and then we test it for all the students. In fact, this is one thing ASSB mandates us, that you cannot test it for some students and report that you have done this. Every single student has to undergo. Now, the student is not being tested here. It is us who are being tested. We have to make sure that the student has actually learned this, and the onus is on us if the student has not learned it. So there is a very, very clear-cut commitment from the institute, which has to be met through clear-cut measurement. So that is what the assurance of learning, that is in the nutshell how an assurance is actually committed and met by an institute, which is ASSB. This is one of the key reporting criteria also when we go for re-accreditations and yearly reviews.
Okay, for example, there are, very specific emerging areas. For example, cyber security. Not many institutions today offer, a specialization in cyber security. Now there is interest in the student group or the aspirant group to do cyber security and become a specialist in that. Now, SUNY, State University of New York, has got a very strong program. Now, accreditation helped us to collaborate with SUNY, where our students can go to SUNY and spend a substantial amount, around 2 semesters over there, to learn cybersecurity. We accept the credits which is given by SUNY, and SUNY accepts the credit that has been given by us. And hence the student now graduates with a specialization in cybersecurity, and it's a STEM degree, which means that there are 3 years they can work in US with that degree. Okay, so naturally the employability also goes up many-fold. Right now, our students are there in SUNY pursuing a program in specialization in cybersecurity. Now, that is the biggest advantage of accreditation to my mind.
We currently have several international faculty who are, joining us for, taking some sessions. So that has become much easier. And we're also looking for international collaborations on many of our research projects. And yeah, that's the area where these are the 2 areas we look for. I would look at each of these different, accreditations as, all different models of quality excellence at the end of the day. They're all focused on quality excellence. So within India, we do focus on, the NAC, and there are, NIRF gives you some rankings, etc. So you look at the ranking and look where the BSchool stands in those rankings. NAC is, I think, something, A++ or something at the university level, of course. And then international, 1 or 2 international accreditations like ASSB. I think these are the bare minimum that are needed for any BSchool.
Yeah, that's a good question. There are 3 triple-crowned schools in India, Calcutta, Indore, and ISB. There are 5 which have both ASSB and AMBA, and then I think there is 1 with ASSB and EQUIS. EQUIS is the toughest, in my opinion. We started the process of preparing for EQUIS a year back. We are getting there definitely. In fact, shortly we are going for, but we have almost prepared our documents. We want to be fully ready when we go for EQUIS. So we are going to go for EQUIS very, very shortly. There is some amount of, because of our merger, some realignment is taking place. We are also coming up with new campus and everything. So with that, the documentation process is changing a little bit. But we are going there this year positively. We are going to take first steps for getting the 3rd coveted accreditation.
There are multiple rankings, and each rankings have got different parameters. Okay, and based on the parameter, the rankings differ. Okay, and hence it is very difficult to judge a school based on ranking. I give you a very simple example, and I'm not taking JAGSOM. For example, if you look at one of the most respected ranking is Financial Times ranking, FT ranking. When you look at the FT ranking, and there, my previous institution, SPJMR, is actually ranked above IIM Bangalore, okay, in the standing. Reason being that looks more at the, placement outcome after 3 years of graduation. Now, if you look at any of the Indian rankings, everywhere SPJMR will be ranked below, because there is, to my mind, there is also a ranker's bias. Okay. And hence ranking more often than not is not, to me, is not a very, accurate indicator of the quality of the business school. And there is a lot of bias which actually sets in. Okay. Because when you ask those questions, also those bias happens because nobody goes and visits the school. Whereas accreditation is a process where the process is very set and there is a visit which is happens, as my friend from TAPMI, Dr. Sudhindra was saying, there is a peer review team which actually visits, speaks to all the stakeholders in a 360-degree manner, and then accredits the school. I think, to my mind, it has to be seen in combination. Accreditation is the first. Without accreditation, I would not join a school if I'm a faculty or an aspirant. Okay, and that's the first requirement to me. The second is, I would like to probably as an aspirant speak to some of the existing students and do a review, both speaking to the faculty, students, alumni, and understand what it is. Ranking can be one of the other things which is also there to me. Otherwise I would have not joined JAGSOM at all if I had to go by ranking. I went by accreditation. Taking my exam is not just for the student, it is also for the faculty, also for the director. Having been at SP, I was in IBS also when the whole accreditation process started. She's talked about some years back. So the question is, having been to some of the top schools, somebody like me would not join JAGSOM. But why did I join? The reason being that I know that the processes are in place. This is sustainable. This school means quality and means, as an intention and the capability to create an impact. So as a faculty, director, students, for all of us, it is important, each stakeholder, to really assess a school in a holistic manner and not just go by one parameter.
Yeah, I think that's one of the differences between management education and any other education. We have to be more dynamic than any other field. The continuous improvement is, in fact, one of the toughest things that we have to undertake every year when we report to ASSP as well as regular reports to AMBA, because we have to show solid, real improvements every year. So where are these improvements coming up? That is, so we have to both show in terms of numbers, in the sense that how our course offerings have changed. Have we introduced more electives? Have we changed our electives based on our interactions? So that is one place we have to show. But more importantly, have we improved our standards? If I have an assurance of learning standard, if I have some research standards, we have said in the faculty sufficiency and quality document, if we have stated that a faculty has to do a minimum of so much of research, this is the kind of journals the faculty has to publish in, have we increased the quality of journals over the time? Have we increased the level of assessment that we use for assurance of learning? So this is what we have to continuously show. And let me tell you, this is the toughest thing. In fact, getting accreditation is very easy. There are institutions that lose accreditation. Retaining accreditation is very, very tough. The first accreditation, they say, is a little easy to be given. Initially, of course, there was a resistance from international accreditation agencies to give Indian schools their accreditations. But once it's given, we are seeing that the first accreditation is usually easy. We are now really looking forward to the re-accreditation tomorrow and Monday onwards, because we are more scared than our counterparts who took it in 2012, because we have to show the improvement over the last 10 years. What exactly did we improve? Whatever was there, and it is tough to improve every year, because even to get the first time, we set very, very high standards. We set the highest standards. We commit to the highest standards every time. And then how do you actually show maybe a 10%? We have to show numbers. We have to show what percentage our AOL, actually, assurance of learning, actually increased from the last year. We have to state that. So it is very tough, but ASSB at least ensures that there is continuous improvement. So that is one definite benefit that students get when they join institutions.
I think that's very important, students. You must remember this, that, whenever an institution gets into an accreditation process, they actually promise what they're going to achieve over the next 5 years, and not just of what they've achieved, but they also promise what they're going to achieve over the next 5 years. Because every 5 years, this accreditation is re-accredited. So after 5 years, each of these institutions are held accountable for the promises that they made, and whether they've achieved that or not. Which also means that when you join an accredited institution, you're also on a path where the institution is also trying to improve itself because they made a promise to the accreditation agency. That is very crucial for all of you. I hope that's what it means, Dr. Sudhindra.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
I will just add one line here.
Yes,
there are actually
yes,
three components, and because we have spent so much time on assurance of learning,
exactly.
The learning goals are essentially to be aligned with the mission of the school. Now, what happens is, for each of these learning goals, you have to say where you are going to deliver it and where you are going to measure it. Now, that assessment is not necessarily the way we conduct the examinations. And hence, what happens is that then the group is assessed, and we need what the report says is how many have exceeded the expectations in terms of what the rubrics is, how many meets and how many are below expectation. Then the school has to meet and understand how do you improve the outcome going forward next year. That is what continuous improvement is all about. And which means that each year you are revising what you deliver, how you deliver, and how you measure. All the three things you do. And that is where the continuous improvement becomes very, very critical. What you call the CIR, continuous improvement report. That is what Dr. Sudhindra is referring to, and it is very crucial from the aspirant's perspective, because the school is delivering and continuously trying to ensure or assure that the learning outcomes, the students or the graduates exceed expectations or meet expectations. A very interesting question. The point is that, there are schools, and I don't name, we all know that if the 100 students get in, not everybody will graduate. Maybe 20% will fall out. And that happens in some of the top institutions in the country as well. Or, a large chunk moves out because admission might have been in some way, but then they could not progress. Now, in an accredited institution, there are two important things that has to be delivered. One is that the learning goals have to be met, which means the graduates has to be of certain quality, ensuring that the quality of graduates are good. At the same time, they progress on time and graduate on time. So if you take 100 students, how many progressed timely, how many got graduated on time, and how their career success or the learner success was ensured, that is something which the accreditation also looks at. And that is where the international accreditation is very different from other accreditations. And the AAC's accreditation particularly is very different from other, what we call accreditations, because you are looking at both learning outcomes being met and at the same time the learner progression happening and career success. That's together is what constitutes the three, or I would say the standards, which is our four standards on learner success. That is where it is there. So that's the full chunk.
Learner progression is not measured for each individual student. It's generally measured at the program level, and it's measured year on year. So when we look at it, at an overall aggregate level, whatever percentage that target that we have set for ourselves this year, we should have met, and we should exceed that target the next year. So that's how, learner progression and learner success is looked at.
What Dr. Sitama says is right. That is how we report learner progression, and then that is how.
But the aggregate is also a sum of parts, isn't it? So
that's where I would like to spend some time, because otherwise we won't get the numbers if we don't focus on individuals. So that is the problem. So we have to focus. See, end of the day, the report is only at the end of the year, but the process has to actually ensure that. So therefore, we have to make sure that every term we have a trimester system. Every term we have to focus on individuals. Otherwise, this is not going to happen. So one is what Professor Atish said, that the AOL reports that we that we generate, they have to have improvement plans. Okay, so that is year-on-year development. Second is we also focus on individuals who don't. In fact, we just finished our the results for our second term, and then we had special awards meant for students. We were awarding students, toppers and others. We had special awards meant for students who showed a significant jump in their GPAs from first to second term. Okay, so that is also because it starts at very early time. As soon as the results are out, we in fact talk to a number of students whose GPA we feel can actually improve. We individually talk to them. We have faculty advisory services. We have faculty mentors who do that. So they actually talk to the students. If this does not take place, then the year-end improvement will not have happened. So we have to focus on individuals at every term, look at their GPAs, and then how. It is also a little tough because the course structures are different. The first term, the second term, third term, and you can imagine that, the management education. So the course structures are different. So we can't really compare very easily. It's a tough task, but yet we have to do that. It has to be done at an individual level, term on term.
Yeah, essentially, yes, it's looking in terms of a little bit, not so much, but yes, there are standards that are devoted to that. It also, in addition to faculty, looks at, the professional staff. So the sufficiency of support staff. It is also looking at, the financial resources, as you said, and, the amount that is invested, where do you get your finances from, and collects all of this data too. So it does look at whether, when you're talking about a mission and you have a strategic plan in place, do you have enough resources from all aspects to be able to meet that plan? So that is what essentially those standards do look at, yes.
Okay, my first answer will be the first thing they should look for is that, the accreditation part. I think EQUIS or AACSB will be the ones that I would look for if I have to look for. That is number one. Number two, I would look at where I stand in terms of my own standing, because all students are not the same. Some may be at 70 percentile, some may be at 80 percentile, and some may be at 100 percentile. And a CAT score of 99 percentile means 187, and 80 percentile means around 45. There's the difference. Okay. So I have to look at what is a feasible school for me. Okay, that's the second thing. That means that will allow me to shortlist which are my target school, depending upon where I am. And then I look at three parameters. Is the school accredited? Is the curriculum aligned to my career goals? So I have to do really some search to see that what is who is coming for recruitment and what kind of curriculum is there. And number three, I would look at the faculty. These are the three things I would look at. First is where I am, because not everybody is 100 percentile or 95 percentile even, or maybe even 85 percentile. So depending on where I am, which are the target schools? Then the three questions: is it accredited? What kind of curriculum? And for what kind of recruiters would come? And number three, who is the faculty? And finally, I would say a little bit, I would look at the leadership, which will also be an indicator of the future orientation of the school. It is like investing in a stock market. It is never about what the school is today, but what it is going to be when I am, in the peak of my career, 15 years down the line. That is where my school really adds value.
Okay, perfect. Just to add to what Professor Atish said, I think something that is very important, but we missed out. I think students, you must also align yourself to the mission of the B school, because we talked of alignment of missions of B schools. For entrepreneurship, there's a better B school. For data sciences, there is better B school. For marketing, there's a better one. For media, there's a better one, and so on and so forth. So one of the things that you must be very clear about is aligning your missions or your goals to the mission and goals of the B school. That's very, very crucial. Otherwise, you might be joining a good B school, but if you want to be an entrepreneur, the number one B school might not be the right place. And if you want to be in data sciences, the number one B school might not be the right place. So I think that's very crucial, which I thought we missed out. I'll hopefully cover it as we move along.
Yeah. So you said three things. That's a nice triangulation, because I'll assume that the student has chosen a program and he has shortlisted a number of schools, and he also understands his band, what Professor Atish was saying, which kind of B schools he is capable of entering into. And so that segmentation, I am assuming that student has done. Having done that, I believe that a student should do a process of triangulation. First is, of course, the student must look at rankings also. They are not the number of rankings, but a school that consistently gets good rankings across. I am sure that there is a value in looking at that. And students will, whether we like it or not, look at reviews on whether it is Pagal Gaya or Careers360’s. There are so many places where they will get their secondary sources of information they will get. These are informal, they are not authenticated, but nevertheless, if a B school appears consistently across, then probably some amount of value and credibility comes to that. The second is definitely the accreditation, because accreditation is formal. That is somebody who is actually measuring using measurable scales. So that is definitely a very, very important aspect that students generally miss out, but they must focus on that. And third, if possible, students must also try and get some primary sources of information, at least word of mouth, somebody who studied and who's doing well, or the student can visit the institute. And this due diligence probably will act as the third important factor that a student can actually go and see the resources, maybe go and take a look at the alumni who have come out of the school. So they have to visit the website of the college, or actually visit the college and then see what kind of alumni have come out, what kind of faculties are there, what kind of resources are there. Go and take a look at the laboratory if there is one laboratory. So this first-hand assurance also is very important. So I believe that a student must do a process of triangulation before spending a couple of tens of lakhs of rupees, but more importantly, a couple of years of their precious lives.
I would go with what the other two said. Definitely the first is look at accreditations. The second, I think, is I'd look at placements and the placements and the kind of recruiters and packages, etc., because we are in a B school at the end of the day. And the third is, despite whatever we may say, I find students always get their most important information, and I've seen this over the last, I think, at least 25, 30 years. Students always get their most important inputs from former students, from their seniors. So they do need to, that is where they will get it, despite whatever we say. And student experience, that's what counts. So 1, accreditations, 2, placements, and 3, student experience.